Welcome back to SiteGrinder, one hint at a time. So this is a pretty simple document. I think you can all figure it out. We've got a footer background color layer. There's also a browser background color layer. See some text layers on there. So it's all pretty straightforward. Client is pretty happy with it, but they really want the content area of the page to have its own background color. Now we can do that by using a page size layer. So I've got one here, and I'll just go ahead and turn it on. So the page size layers are normally not visible on the page. So if I were to build this now, we wouldn't actually see this layer. However, like columns, if I use the color overlay layer effect, then the page size layer will be visible. So I'll just go ahead and do that. I'm going to choose the color overlay layer effects. I'll choose sort of a light gray here, maybe even light blue, and perfect. So there we go, and we're all set. So now the page size layer is using color overlay. It means it will be visible. So let's just go ahead and see what this looks like when I build this out. Now, one nice thing about using page size when we have pages with footers is that the page size layer will extend down to touch the footer no matter how big the page gets. And so that's pretty much meaning it's doing what you would expect it to. I should also mention that if you're using a page size layer with a footer, that the page size layer should not include the footer area. All right, let's go ahead and close the Design Manager. And there you see it. So notice that right now, as I'm moving this up and down, the page size is extending down to the footer, even though it's not actually active yet. Notice that when I come up here, it's only when the footer stops moving that I actually see the scroll bar. So anyway, so we've now got a different background color on just our page content area. That content area extends down to the footer if the footer is further away than the original design of the canvas, and so we're all very happy. So that's fantastic. All right. Well, we can also use the page size layer to put shadows on the page itself. This is something that people often want to do. They're like, how do I put a shadow just on the page area? Well, we can also do this with the page size layer. Now, when we want to do this, we usually want the page size layer to be just a little bigger than we would want it normally. So I'm just going to extend it out here just so there's a little room for the shadow on the side so it's not bumping into my content. So I'm happy with that. Now, it's the page size layer itself does not get the shadows. Instead, the page size layer can have a matching content layer, a matching background layer rather. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to give it the same name as the page size, center, but I'm going to call it background. So here we're seeing the background hint again, and the background hint, as we know, allows us to use either the gradient overlay or the pattern overlay, and in this particular case it would apply it to the page size. The same rules apply that we use with the browser background. If the center background layer is only touching the top left and right sides of the center page size layer, then the tile will be repeated horizontally. If it touches all four sides of the page size layer, the tile will be repeated both horizontally and vertically. At the moment, I'm just going to have it tile everywhere. I'm not too worried about it, but because I'm going to make a full width tile, and I'm actually going to use the gradient overlay for this. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to use the gradient overlay for adding a shadow to this particular page. So to do this, I'm going to first set the angle of the shadow to be 0, so it's running left and right. And we need, instead of linear gradient, I'm going to need a reflected gradient. And I'm probably going to reverse that. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Now I just need to edit the gradient itself. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this white and move it way over here. And I'm going to take this opacity stop and move it over so it matches the same point, and take that stop and set its opacity down to 0. All right, so this is looking very well now. So now we are quite happy with the way that the shadow looks. I'm going to take the opacity on this background layer itself. Oh, I guess that gets rid of our shadow too much here. I just want the, I think the fill. There we go. So I'm just going to take the fill of this background layer out so we can sort of see what it's going to look like. So it's going to have apply this particular shadow to the page size layer, and this shadow will grow as the page grows. Now, if I'm looking at this page design, one thing we might want is we might want this same shadow in the footer area. Well, this is very simple. I'm just going to take this background layer here. I'm just going to duplicate it, and I'll call it footer shadow. I'm not even going to, doesn't even need a hint. And I'll just make sure it's above our footer background layer, so it's going to be included in the footer once it's in the same geographic area. And I'm just going to make it the same size as the footer area is, meaning just, so it's just within the footer, just like that. And boom, and let's see how that looks. So now I have applied a shadow in the area of the footer. In this particular case, let's see, what have I done here? My photoshopping skills are not exactly perfect. The shadow is not it's not coloring the middle part in, but I will leave that to you to fix, because this is not part of my lesson. But you can see where I've just taken this this gradient overlay that we were using on the background layer, moved it over to the footer, and getting it to work there. And in fact, I think but this will work simply by moving this, stop, changing this to back to 100%. Will that be what I want? No. All right, well, I'll leave it for brighter people than me to figure out, but we'll just do that. So let's go ahead and I'll build that out right now. All right. Great, it's built, and there we have it. So now we have we've got as the page is grown and shrunk, the page has shadows on it. The footer has some sort of shadow effect we've put on it, just a graphic on top with some sort of shadow effect, and the everything is working really well, quite as we wanted to. So that's fantastic. If this particular design had a header as well, if I were using the browser background to put a top header on it, then I might not want the page size blocking that. I would say, well, that's I don't want the page size with this shadow blocking the header in this particular fashion. I don't want that. So I'll just I'm going to copy this part of the browser background and that intersects the page size, and just make it its own little graphic so that it'll cover up what the page size is doing, cover up that page size shadow and color effect. So I'll just go ahead and select the pixels for the browser background, and then I'm going to intersect them with the selection of the page size. So then now we're just selecting that. Make sure the browser background is selected. I'll just do a new layer via copy, and now I've got this other layer here, and let's just move it up to the top there. Bingo, there it is. And so I think that looks good, and I'm not liking my little footer shadow that I failed to put on earlier, so I'm just going to turn it off, and let's build this. Bingo. There we go. So now we have a browser background applying a header, page size with its background applying a shadow to the page size, a footer on this thing, and another graphic up here at the top that's just covering the page size shadow to make sure that we don't we don't see the page size, background color, and shadow up in the top area. So that's all looking quite excellent, and I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. And in the future, we're going to be moving on to outside of all we've been doing lots of tiling types of things these last few lessons, and we're going to be getting away from those in the next ones. Thank you very much.